bleep that in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Don't Be So Brewed.
Don't be so rude.
Thank you guys for listening, watching, viewing, subscribing. We're still running a special for subscriptions.
We are. Free
Use the code
subscriptions.
quarantine.
You don't even need a code.
You
Completely
took the
free,
code down?
completely low effort. Just go to the YouTube page and hit subscribe. Free subscriptions.
I was talking to a listener the other day who said that they had recently subscribed, all because it was a free
It
subscription.
was free. And rumor has it we're going to do this in April as well. So
Yeah. It can carry through.
The economy's shit right now. We might as well give away as much free.
Yeah. Listen, when you're
subscriptions as we
America's
can.
podcast, you got to do what you can do. So,
got to take care of our peoples.
therefore, that's
Buy
what
one,
we
get
gotta
one,
do.
right? It's free on YouTube. It's free on Facebook.
Excuse me, who are you?
Back up.
Hey, everybody, this is my buddy, Jonathan Montgomery, the owner and entrepreneur of Longhorn Woodworks out of Tyler, Texas.
Right on. Welcome.
Thank you.
He is
Pleasure being
another
here.
Army veteran. We served together 3-4 years, probably at the same unit, didn't we?
Thank you again.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
service. Yes.
Absolutely.
And now you ended up here. Wow.
Yeah.
Now we're about to have some stories.
It's
I can already tell.
it's a business thing, right? So we've discussed that I bought the new house.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a really large
Congrats.
dining room. Thank you. And when I saw this dining room, I was like, that has to have a focal piece of furniture in it. It has to have like a big, beautiful dining room table. I wanted a live edge wood table on it, and we live in Dallas. We went through a lot of manufacturers, looked at pricing, talked to people. A lot of people wanted to do it their way. They didn't want to do one slab piece with live edge wood. They wanted to matchstick it and like piece the whole thing together. And I don't know. One day I remembered that Montgomery had a woodworking company, and I'd been following it on the social media accounts, and I was like, shit, I'm gonna reach out to him and ask him what he thinks. Him and my wife
Through social media.
him and my wife started talking about exactly what like our discussion
I was
was.
like, I worked with this guy for 4 years. He knows how to play with my wood. He knows what I like.
Of course he does. He knows how I like my wood. Live and
Long,
on the edge.
large,
Polished.
Wide.
super hard.
I like to stand out. Like for people to be able to set stuff on it. Hell, you could even jump up and dance on it if you wanted to. I mean,
That's what
it's impressive.
Montgomery said. That's part of his testing.
It has pass fat test. If this fat guy can get on it and supports it,
It'll
work.
Do you rub it down with Viagra to make sure that happens, or what keeps your wood so firm?
I am opening my beer after that. But yeah, so
He needs to drink after that.
He showed up today to do a delivery for us. I know social distancing and all that stuff, but
Hey, furniture delivery is still acceptable. I've seen people getting appliances delivered. I've seen all kinds of shit.
you know, Jason,
Texans
I
have totally
actually,
said F the social distancing.
I actually did come with the proper gear. I came with a paint suit, gloves, a mask, and goggles, and I was going to put those on before I got to your front door and knock on the door.
but he didn't. He just walked up.
Hazmat.
Love it. You should have done that. That would have been fantastic.
It would have been funny, wouldn't
would
it?
have been fantastic.
Man, it would have been cool to just have you dressed up like that on the podcast. It would have been
Absolutely.
So
Giant missed moment there. It's okay.
he and his wife came into town, dropping it off. I was like, look, one, we've been really good at like talking entrepreneurial, promoting businesses, small business, local stuff. I mean, the environment right now is a little questionable for what we have going on. I was like, when you get into town, Montgomery, let's
not
pitch you up.
questionable. This is where real entrepreneurship is born, right? I mean,
Exactly.
you've got to be able to pivot.
We had that discussion on the way
Move
on the way in. We actually
Yeah.
said that like small businesses that may not have been doing the best right going into this are getting a fair reset against major corporations who are laying people off and drawing
Some
cash
are,
in.
some
Right?
aren't. I mean, it'll spawn a lot of new small side hustle business. I think.
Yep.
I agree.
It'll also force people to innovate when they may have been stuck, which I think would actually be a great thing.
I mean, just in general, then that's not just a small business situation. That's all over the board. We, at the firm, as much, I guess, animosity might be the right word, as there was towards technology, when there was no choice. If you want to work and you need to be remote, you got to figure out WebEx, you got to figure out Zoom, you've got to really put yourself out there. And then our kids, you guys have kids or no?
Not yet.
Man.
We have 2 fur babies.
Better work that
We
wood.
have 2 Goldens. Those are
So,
ours.
with the kids, I got a 10 and a 12-year-old, both girls, both in school, one junior high, one elementary. They're on Zoom calls now. They have set plans of what they've got to complete each week, and I'm like,
Yep.
holy shit, they're getting like a dose of college
Yeah.
at this young age. Like, how is that going to change? How's learning going to change?
Well, and I've seen people posting about that, talking about the fact of, when school year kicks off, then all the people who run everything, the administration spends a year creating what the curriculum and plan will be for the next year. Well, these teachers did this shit in like weeks. So it's like,
when you don't have a
let
test
them do it.
to match up with, I guess
It's true.
That's okay.
I saw that Charlotte the other day was doing dance class. We were on a video chat the other day, and you had to leave the room because Charlotte was doing dance class on Zoom.
Yeah, so the dance studio that she goes to, Center for Dance, they, immediately, before really many others were doing anything, said, hey, we're going to do remote dance.
Wow.
Yeah.
So her whole
That's awesome.
The class gets online, and the teacher tells them what to do, and they do it, and they stay active. It's kind of cool because when you think, like, I was talking with a friend of ours that their son plays soccer. The kid's screwed. I mean, you can't really do a whole lot of soccer on
That was a good save.
on web conferences.
Well, yeah, you could hey, do these things. Like you could send out some stuff for them.
Nobody
to do,
wants
that's
to.
really on you.
Nobody wants to take video of you playing with your balls, right? I mean, it's just a weird thing,
Not if you're getting kicked in them either.
right?
Who the hell wants to see that?
I feel like the immediate thing to do is go out and buy one of those soccer buddies. Like it's the
The bounce back.
Well, yeah, the ball is basically in a laundry bag, and you tie it to this thing.
You just get one of those elastic things where you
just
wrap the
upside
strap
down
around
tether
your
ball.
ankle.
Right, yeah.
And you kick
That's
it.
all you need.
Yeah.
Just put a tether ball, soccer ball, on the end of the tether
I mean, listen, it's interesting to see what people are doing to still stay engaged.
That's why
still-
ball sports are not big on social media like that.
Well, have you seen that? Since NASCAR isn't racing, like they're doing the iRacing series, and everybody's
See, I
really
don't
into
understand,
iRacing series now.
I mean, I understand the social distancing, but once you're in the car, you should be safe, right? They should be able to run.
What the hell's iRate? Like, what are they doing with that?
Well, so I mean, they still have the pit crews and everybody down in the pits and all that stuff. So I mean, you're going to be it's
true.
way more people than the 10 people were allotted. But so what it is like all of these racers got in their their virtual cars at their places, like training
It's
suites,
like a training module to practice.
yeah, like
essentially.
a race simulator, and they
So they're gaming.
This is so
Yeah,
much
they're
better than
gaming.
coming in prepared. We'd have never picked this topic. I don't think.
no, and yeah, and so
We would
they're
have never picked this topic.
I'm still blown away that this is actually like a race going on.
yeah, so they've been. It's not like this is new because of this, but it is new in the sense that more people are engaged to
Like
watching
people actually
it now.
win these races.
Yeah, so it's just like you and I if we
running
went.
and shit?
Yeah,
So,
like full on
so it's just a
NASCAR
grown-up
series.
video game.
Virtually,
that-
it's NASCAR
What the
simulation.
shit, Scott, get us a fucking iCar so we can start. We got to be doing something around here. You want to talk about entertaining? Put the three of us on that. Figure out how to change out everything. Like, what are we supposed to do as your pit crew? No, that's
Be the
the joke
pits.
has been all the
Refill beer.
ESPN 8, the Ocho, literally.
The
Is it real?
Ocho.
Oh, right? Literally, you're
I
just
guess when
refilling.
you're-
You're like, hey, you're not supposed to drink
yeah.
and drive, but we can drink here.
I guess when
Gotcha.
you're doing an online simulation,
It's like
you
when you're
can,
golfing.
You're a whole lot.
So
safer.
here's the 2019 iRacing. It's a video from it. Let's
commercial.
watch. We're gonna end up getting a commercial here. I think it's muted right now.
all
Anyway,
these
so we'll let-
premium services.
I mean, I know with ESPN 8, the Ocho, the joke off of dodgeball is just people like, oh, we've got bratwurst eating contests. We've still got bowling. There's certain stuff that's still going.
So
through,
he-
and you're like,
so here we
never would've
go.
Thought I'd watch this.
It looks legit though. Look how real that
I
looks.
think I know some guys that actually facilitate this
Well, but yeah, so
locally.
I want to say Danny Hamlin just won.
$100,000 on the line.
Danny Hamlin just won his second iRacing event yesterday for it. So it's pretty serious though. I mean, it looks awesome. It's become pretty popular in
I
watching
mean,
it.
is this not what they're basically doing on Twitch?
Today, a champion will be crowned. 4 of eNASCAR's top competitors will
eNASCAR.
Yeah, it's
2019
esports.
title
Okay.
and a share of $100,000.
That's cool. I like that. Let's just play video games and
Well, yeah,
compete
all the
globally.
esports stuff will
Make
continue
a
to
ton of
grow
money.
like that. All that stuff is
And you
going
don't have
crazy.
to go out. That's like a win-win.
It's the first time they've got a race in air conditioning.
You don't have to worry about dying in a wreck.
When your mom told you you
True.
were
Talk about taking the
professional
safety hazard
video
out of it.
game player, now she was full of shit.
Yep.
Right? If only Mario won, I'd have just kept sticking with Mario 1, 2, and 3. Like I could be,
Yeah,
I
but
could
if you
be
look
there
at the
now.
people that hold the world records of those things, like that's really the mass appeal for games like that now. It's like, how fast can you make it through the full game?
Hey, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
put
like I
out,
said, I can do it in under 6 or 7 minutes.
I'm gonna put out
But
an.
look at the record. Like
It's
you
like
should-
4.5 or something.
You know what I'd like?
What's that?
I want someone to find a tube TV, and I want to play some Duck Hunt.
I've got Duck
Right?
Hunt.
Do you really?
Yes.
With the gun and everything?
Yeah.
We
Do you
need-
have a? You probably have a tube TV too, don't you?
I guarantee we
No.
can find one in Marketplace.
I guarantee
Guaranteed.
you could find
Let's
one.
get
I
one.
guarantee you could drive Richardson and find one on the side of the road.
Future podcast. Let's get Duck Hunt going on. for
Well, I was
sure.
trying to come up with an idea of like we need to do a live pretty soon. Like I'd love to do something to kind of hang out with the audience. Like I know there's no UFC,
definitely
no
need to do a
sports
live
events, but
Are you sure they're not having one tonight?
I don't think so. They're not having any events right now. They've all been pushed back.
I thought he was still having that one. That
No,
one.
they're trying to load up. So I sent you that. They're trying to take all the events. So there was 3 or 4 fights that got pushed off that all had a main event. And what Dana White's trying to do is take all those main fights and put them on the
One
Khabib
ticket.
versus Ferguson
Yeah, that's what
card.
you'd said too.
On
Yeah,
on
the
April
April
18th.
18th one.
and charge 4x for it, right?
No, they're going to charge the
Same
same
price?
thing, but he wants to load it up. Like, believe me, that's how they.
He wants to
Ever
be
since
the.
they got the ESPN deal, dude, they have fights like every weekend. This isn't just like, oh, hey, man, in 3 weeks there's going to be a new. They're literally pumping these things out, and like the ones that aren't really that popular, they go on ESPN Plus.
Right.
People can watch it.
For you, what they call UFC Fight Night.
Yeah. And then the other ones are the premium where you're buying pay per view essentially. Like
We're
Khabib
seeing
versus
championship
Ferguson, that's
fights.
a pay per view. But you're talking about, I think it was Darren Till versus somebody, and then there's like a bunch of 170s that were all supposed to be having some big fights that they're like, we're just going to shove all these guys on one card, which I have a feeling that Dana White knows something that we don't because he's best friends with Donald Trump, and so he swears that the April 18th event is still going to happen. So
basically, the games
Are we
are going to
gonna be
go
good to
on.
go,
The fights are going to go on until like 1, 2, 3 in the morning instead of midnight. Then with that many
Maybe.
extra fights.
But here's the thing, right? Somebody's got to be the first to get the events going,
Yeah.
right? And whoever that is going to get the press, be it good or bad, based
which
on
make sure
what
you keep an eye
happens.
out because we're going to
Yeah.
have an event coming as soon as we're set free.
We
For
are
sure.
a
We're
big
going to have a
one.
big event coming. So
It's going to be like the official Etch's grand opening,
That's right.
like
We'll
the
just do it
studio
all.
grand opening.
we'll just do it all.
with everything, man. Shit.
We'll
can
Lysol
you
everything
believe-
down, and you'll be able to lick and touch whatever you
Dude,
want.
I mean, next month.
Lick and touch. Good lord.
Lick and touch
This
whatever
is-
you want without Corona.
I'm just gonna let that one hang there for sure.
Yeah.
Jason's over here just talking about licking and touching everything.
You haven't seen this? The new
I've
YouTube,
zipped my fly back up, so we're good.
the new YouTube, the YouTuber who's
Release the hounds.
the YouTuber who licked the
Yeah.
public toilet, right?
Uh-huh.
And I was having
Alfred.
I was having a conversation
Is
with
she a
somebody the other
YouTuber?
day.
I thought she was just an
No, it was a
Instagram model.
he that did it.
No, there was a girl that started it.
Well, yeah, but there was a dude. And
There's a
he's,
YouTuber that got corona from
that's-
licking.
This dude, yeah, he's a.
There's a girl on an airplane.
Right, there's a male and a female that have both done the same stupid thing and perceivably got corona. But what I was trying to go to was
Oh, the guy
you
that
should
licked
be
the
sick.
toilet seat and all that shit.
You should be
that.
you should be sick and in a hospital for licking a public toilet seat to begin with.
Yes,
Like I don't
absolutely.
care if you got the coronas or whatever.
Look,
I forget who I sent that
I'm all
interview.
about natural selection. Okay,
Did I
just be clear on that. But
Did I send you
Yeah.
that interview?
I've got
I don't remember.
doctor friends in New York that are battling this, and it's some serious
New
shit.
York is no joke.
The
It's
people,
a madhouse
that's
right
no
now.
joke anywhere, but the people that are getting it, that are having reactions with it, some serious fucking shit.
Yep.
I'm telling you, if you were in New York versus here, like people here are like, "Oh, we're supposed to stay home. Cool, I'll see you on 75." In New York,
No,
dude, it's a
it's not.
Well,
the
so
case.
the- well,
They're talking about shutting it fully down.
and they live on top of each other. There's no
yeah. They're
ability
talking
to
about
go,
shutting down that area. They're
Dude,
not
I
talking
was on a
about.
conference call this week, but one of the attorneys is up in New York. He was telling us
Oh yeah, yeah.
he was out running and people weren't moving. You know, like he was like,
Driving here today from Tyler, my wife, like,
It was not
She-
a
well-
different Saturday probably.
well,
huh?
she genuinely thought we were going to get pulled over by the cops, get the $1,000 fine because no one was going to be on the road but us being stupid. And she's like, "Why are so many people out? You're supposed to be home. You're supposed to be at home."
It's like Saturday.
You're not going to get a fine. Just
Yeah.
tell them you're going to get some Chick-fil-A, but you heard Dallas's is the best.
exactly.
I actually had thought I was like I'm just gonna tell the cop like this is not constitutional, right? Like I'll see you at court. If that's what you want to say is you're gonna fine me $1,000. All right, cool.
Even
I'll
Trump
see in
said
court,
it
it's
says
not
this isn't
constitutional.
enforceable. Like he said, I think it was New York, Connecticut, and like he was like, we made literally like full lockdown. But he's like, I don't know how enforceable that's going to be. Like he's legitimately saying logistics. Like
He
how do we
knows.
actually make that work?
You know,
Without infringing on your personal
Yeah,
rights.
yeah.
Like,
And you know people are going to be.
but then you got Bill Gates out there saying, "Look, I mean, we've got to shut it down to."
But he's been all about this for years. He's been talking
Oh,
about.
he is
We just
totally-
haven't. He's like,
You know,
it's
I was-
coming, it's coming, and then
I was thinking about it. You know, if you
Is he Nostradamus?
if you
Well, you
take
know
what
there's a-
if you take what they've been saying, right? And Corona's been around a long time. This is just another variant. You know, there's I guess the novel Corona. Then
yeah, there's several strains.
whatever the strain we're on now is the one that's the same as SARS and all the nasty shit.
Well, Corona is a SARS.
Right. So if you look at Corona being a common cold, you know, the type of stuff that Lysol typically takes care of that has it written on the label.
It says it's on
Right.
there.
Right.
Corona.
And it's not like it was all of a sudden it came to. The chances of you as a person in society catching the cold, very high.
Right.
I don't know many people that have never had a cold before.
I mean, it's just
Right.
germs.
So, you know, and this, you know, is I think a regular cold's as contagious as this stuff because you could get it by all the things that they're asking us to protect ourselves with now. The flip side of it is that this cold could kill people.
Right.
Yeah,
Just like
and
the
I think
flu,
we're
right? I
mixing
mean-
cold with flu. Cold is different. That's like a whole
Well,
lower
the pharmacy
level.
mixes cold and flu. There's like medicines
Yes,
for that, right?
but I'm talking. If you talk flu and COVID, that's more accurate.
No, I don't disagree, but I'm
Because they're both
saying
of
just
the-
on how it, like, I'm trying to relate it to if you lock down the country because you didn't want people getting a cold,
Right.
I got you.
like
Well,
that contagious.
So I was looking at the numbers literally yesterday. So I am in the group that it's affecting the economy. Like I was furloughed yesterday.
really?
Yeah. So I work for a really great company. Like 90% of people in my industry have lost their jobs entirely. I'm one of the very few companies I know out there. They actually said we're just going to cut 50% workforce, and instead of saying we're cutting 50% of the workforce, y'all just have to work 4 hours a day, and we're taking 50% of your paycheck. So I actually got a very good deal, and I love the company that I work for like thinking of it outside the box, knowing that there's got to be a
Gotcha.
better
you
method.
still
for
need
it.
the people.
Right, and we've talked about this 100 times. The three of us that salespeople are a very big detriment to how any company succeeds or survives through it. So like cutting an entire sales force is, you know, you're going to have to bring people back. You're going to have
You
to
won't be
reach
able to
training.
recover unless
Yep.
you get those same people.
I
Right.
cut 90 people from my wife's company that she works for the other day. Literally just,
Well,
they're doing this. The people at the top are taking a 25% pay cut. The people below that are taking a 10.
It's
The people
crazy.
below
Our
that are taking
entire
like a
company
5
took
or whatever.
50% from CEO to the janitor.
Yep.
The entire company took a 50% pay
For
cut.
the next quarter, is that what they're doing? That's what they're doing.
Well,
or
no,
is
we're
it
just
for the next 3
right
months?
now. We're doing it for just for 1 month.
Oh, okay.
So
So they're doing
it-
it for a quarter. So they said for 3 months.
So for the next month, I'll work 4 hours a day,
Gotcha.
which is like 1/16 of what I normally
Now, in
work.
4 hours a day, could you still
Right.
earn commission and so on?
Yeah. So so we're based on number of growth sales. So every script that I grow in the sales in that number. I mean, in theory, right? Like a real go getter, which we'll see how receptive offices are for me for it. Like, will I continue working past just strictly those 4 hours? It's not like they're going to chase us with a broom out of the
Yeah.
manufacturing center and lock the door behind me. Like, I can still do whatever I need to
If you
do to
had to, if you
manage
knew.
my customer
Yeah.
base, right? So that's all there, and hopefully that's what takes place. And like my doctors and my offices are all receptive to the fact that we've got a great company that we work for that's taking care of customers as well as the people who work for it, and it turns out to be a value add. But obviously, and I'm in a career field that's populated with a lot of young people as the sales staff, and I was sitting and I was talking to them, and because being from the military, being where Montgomery and I come from, like a lot of suck happens, right? Like just shitty
Embrace it.
stuff always happens, and you got to have resiliency. You've got to be able to look back at it, and you've got to be able to talk to your peers and subordinates and be motivating to it. And so
I like that.
we ended up having
Embrace the suck.
yeah.
I mean, that's all it is. Embrace the suck.
So
That's a shirt. That's a cup right there.
oh, it's
Already
huge,
exists.
hugely
Is it?
popular.
Yeah.
popular.
Oh, yeah.
I got to start watching TV again.
That's not a TV thing. That's
We're
been
just find some better friends.
We probably agree with that, Scott. So we ended up getting on a Zoom happy hour for like 5 hours last night.
I was about to say, we had a game night with some of our friends through Zoom. It was a blast. I was like, how is this going to work? And I was like, should we jump on there? And we jumped on there and we played Pictionary. We did Name That Tune.
We did it with Kevin Kane.
I was going to say, it was a blast. We had fun.
Well, so I was actually, where it was going to go is we had this discussion. We flipped it around.
That's a nightmare.
We started talking about the numbers. Like there's a couple of girls that are in the company with me who are really concerned, right? Like this is their first like grown-up job with some good money to it and all that stuff, and I feel for them in that, and I'm like, look, like we're in a good spot. Like our company didn't get rid of us. At best case scenario, or at worst case scenario, they think this is a Hail Mary to try and save where we're at because they don't want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, they're like, look, we know the economy's got to come back and they're going to need us as salespeople out there selling a quality product all over again. So I pulled the numbers up because they were like, oh, I freaked out about it. I said, the problem that I'm seeing, and I actually told you this when you showed up to the house earlier today, I was like, everybody's talking about contracted numbers. Yep. Globally, the contracted numbers, last night when I was having the Zoom happy hour was 566,000 people globally. Mm-hmm. The death total was 25,416. First off, that's 4.4% of the contracted
the flu,
total.
By the way, is still kicking its ass just in the United States, not globally, just in the United States for this year. Yep. It's like over 50,000 people that it's killed.
In the United States. We looked this up, and I would pull it back up so I could have it on here and credit the source, but I forgot where it was because we were drinking. And 11,000 people a day die in car accidents. So we're a little over 2 days of car accidents and death at this point.
Oh, yeah,
you and I driving.
You and I talked about that yesterday because it was like you don't see people going, "Oh my gosh, we've got to get rid of cars. We've got
an obesity crisis. Let's shut down the restaurant."
Louisiana's about to take over New York's top spot with this, thanks to Mardi Gras. I would assume, but they have a 48% tie rate to diabetes and. But diabetics are like 40% of the deaths that they have there. Now, then there's, it's
because you have other conditions typically. That's when it starts to come. Like, I had heart disease and corona. I had some sort of autoimmune issue and corona. Like,
right. And so,
see what your boy did?
Well, my discussion actually got, my discussion got to, with that point was how many of these people, especially since they're older, they've got prior conditions anyway. If they had caught a flu or a cold, it would have been their day anyway because St. Peter was calling to the gate. Like, how many of those people?
Well, how many people got it and are over it and we don't even know?
Right. So
before it even became a thing.
Yeah. I don't know. We've all talked about it. Like, did I have this?
There was at least half a dozen people
that
were like, man, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. My mom was like, I think I might have had this earlier this year. And
right.
Well, and you're told, like, stay at home. Like, unless you have the extreme symptoms, stay at home.
Yep.
So how many people literally have the extreme, but their extreme is someone else's minor?
Right.
Well, the thing is, you don't even have to be symptomatic. That's the kicker with this stuff, right? Like, you can
most
get
children are not.
Well, and you could carry it.
You could carry it and not know it for days.
Very few, very few children have even shown the symptoms, but they've tested positive with it. So right there in that itself.
I had no idea.
Well, and they're thinking they get some sort. I was reading on that too. It's like some sort of herd immunity where it's like, based on what they've come in contact with whatever, it's like they're probably fine. I'm like, there's very interesting, just mixed information that goes everywhere that again confuses the shit out of me because I had someone send me in there like, oh my gosh, last night was the worst night that we've had. We woke up with 220 more deaths, totaling up to whatever it is, and like, I don't want to sit here and discount. I get it. I don't want anyone to die. I understand that. But just because there's an awareness that people are dying doesn't mean that we should get all up in arms about it because guess what? There's a lot of people, I'm sorry, that die again from car accidents, from all kinds of stuff, that if we knew the stats on that, would you get up in arms about that shit?
This is going to sound really gory and insensitive. I wonder if the suicide metrics from people taking themselves out, from having issues.
Trump has already said he's worried about
holding
that.
up with this exceed
Trump is massively worried about that.
Two things that happen to that is, one, 25,000 people worldwide globally means that there's less than that in America that have died on it. Secondly, or to run in concurrence with that, I think that this economy is going to be way deadlier for that in this. I mean, if you have businesses
Yeah.
and people who are losing homes and losing life, like, have you seen the meme where it's like dad on the outside, like just sit down and eat your food, and then it's the other picture of dad on the inside, and it's like, how am I going to pay the bills? Like, why do I get to take care of it? Like there's a lot more under the surface when dad's just making something quick and easy, right? Like that, and adults who are going to be carrying this burden of the economy crashing and wondering how it's going to continue and where they're going to bring back and like live to the same lifestyle or even like raise the children, like a lot of the stuff that
feel
we
like
all
with
drive for on a daily basis.
Businesses, we're going to see bankruptcy go rampant after all this too.
It's going to be questionable on how many people will like extend the olive branch to help during this time. And then the second part that I was going to say out of that is, I said this on an earlier podcast a while back that I have not heard of anybody dying of a natural illness or like old age or anything in a long ass time. Like everybody's had a reason. Who's died recently that hasn't been from corona? Like everybody that it seems like they've got an attribute to corona being a part of it.
It's still media inflicted.
I'm telling you, I think a lot of this is the media is screwing up a lot of things. There's a lot of fear and.
I almost run it to this point to say, like, what corona is an extreme flu, and we just wanted to almost, like, idolize it, almost make it scary and make it something different so that way, because everybody's accustomed to the flu, and people getting sick and dying with the flu every year.
I think of it kind of like a trend, too. Like
Right.
Like, even, like, shopping for toilet paper, like, going out, like, it's almost like, oh, well, these people went and did it, so I need to do it, too. Like, this is the cool thing to do, and that is screwing everyone over.
Again, when you talk about this stuff, like what you're mentioning about corona versus, like, flu, again, I've heard that corona is 3 times more contagious than the flu. So, yes, it will spread, and we're getting this issue of, like, we need to stop that. But the way that it affects people and the way that it's hitting certain people and the deaths that it's causing is still nothing compared to what the flu's done just this year in the United States, not even worldwide. I don't even know what the worldwide statistics are for the flu. But again, like you mentioned, and it's a joke, but it's like restaurants are killing people too because people are lazy and they go get food that is not the best thing for them to be eating, and they are slowly killing themselves. Yep. But just because it's not a pandemic that's going around doing it, and you're like, well, that's your choice. You just go kill yourself.
Yeah. The doctor gets to tell you that you're overweight, you need to go on a diet because you're going to get all these diseases.
Or it's insensitive.
Let's not even bring up
to
the
say
stat
that.
where it's like doctor-caused mistakes that kill people.
Yes.
Let's not bring that one up because we wouldn't want to have to come to terms with any of that stuff because there are crazy statistics on that too.
So let's talk about some positive stuff.
Actually, what I would like to do, but I was just going to say that, like, I looked up the flu rate at this point. 3.4% of people on March 28th worldwide who had contracted it had died. So we're close to what I had said before. And I'm looking for the death rate of the flu. And I'm not an actual epidemiologist, so I don't know that stuff.
So while he's doing
guessing.
that,
I was going to say because I was.
I want to know about how you got into the wood business, and I want to hear the story.
So,
have you always been obsessed with wood?
Dude, have you seen me?
I absolutely have not
We
been
know you're
obsessed.
obsessed with wood.
I built the crappiest shoe rack you could ever see out of some basic pallet wood, some old Craftsman's tools of my dad's that maybe lasted battery life like 5 minutes at a time, but it served a purpose. This was starting the business, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed crafting something. My father-in-law was a woodworker and taught me how to use the tools. Taught me how to be able to understand what I was doing as a woodworker. I went from there and found out this is something I was really good at. Like, I was passionate about it, and I was natural, self-taught, understood. Like I could go even like in this room right now, see a piece of furniture and be like, I know exactly how that was made. Mm-hmm. I don't have an architectural background. I don't have a mathematical background to know numbers, but I understood. Like it was just natural, and it turned into a passion. Went with that, building custom furniture for the last 5 years.
Full time?
Full time, 100% self-funded. We haven't gone to a bank for any loans.
Hell yeah.
It has been a struggle, but I've loved it. I've really got to build some really cool stuff. I built for the poorest people in the world. I built for millionaires and billionaires. I love them all alike. But what I like to do is
Everybody's money's the same color, right?
everybody's money is the exact same color.
We were talking on the drive-in about
I'm not.
some of the feelings that you've had about
Same color.
what brought you to
Yes.
where you're at. Tell us about like your mindset of luxury furniture or heirloom furniture, and like what your viewpoint is of why you do what you do.
Yeah. So I really, you can't change the American mindset, or society's mindset. People think, I need a piece of furniture, I'm going to go to the store, buy it. I get it. You can buy it. You can pick it up right then and there. It fits within a budget. But in the next 3, 4, 5 years, what are you doing? You're changing your furniture in your house. Your furniture wears out. You put something too hot. You put something too cold. You put something too wet. It messes up. And that's not what I'm about. Like, I want to build an heirloom quality piece for every client that their kids are going to get, their grandkids are going to get. It's going to go down generations. With that means that every inch, even the underside of a box, the backside of a cabinet, every inch has had some type of love and care and attention and blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. I don't care if I'm losing money on the piece. That client will get the best piece that they could possibly get because I want to be proud of that work that I do. And it's tough because people don't see it that way, or you give people a quote and it's like, man, like I had no idea it was going to be that much. I really want to tell my clients, like, you enjoy your paycheck too, right? Like.
But people
for
have,
sure.
have,
It's
a, have a
tough,
lifestyle of convenience, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
so convenience and having it immediately, having it at an affordable price. It doesn't matter if I throw it away, like Amazon will deliver it
Oh.
later. But
Yeah, it's the
Well-
IKEA versus you. It's the two.
But that's the reason why I went to
Yeah.
Longhorn. Like that was not only that I knew him, not only that I wanted to like pay it back to a buddy of mine, but at the same time, like I've been watching him on Instagram for years, and we had this discussion too. Like a lot of his clientele right now have been people who've been watching what he's had to do on there for a long time and built that rapport basically as his profile. And it was. I incidentally was that same guy, not really realizing that's what I was doing, but I knew that I always kind of wanted something like that from him.
You sell yourself on what it is that he's already done. It's the beauty of when you
Yep.
put that stuff out. It's like, oh man, I like that. Like,
Dude, and this table is badass. I sent you guys a picture of it.
It looks
I
beautiful.
love
It's
live
awesome.
edge. Is
Well,
there a certain style that you like doing? Like, can you pretty much do anything, or is there?
I like to say I can build anything anyone wants.
Okay.
You come to me with woodworking need, I'm going to accomplish it.
Because I know like mid-century modern is very popular.
It
right now.
is,
Like,
and
everybody
really,
wants that
I
stuff.
kind of like a mid-century and contemporary style the most. It's just the sleek, straight lines, letting the wood do the talking versus a stain or a paint. It's just I like it. And I feel like it can go with anything, whether it's a color, whether it's a couch, whether it's any environment. It fits within it. So yeah, it's what I like the most. But even building custom pieces, just like Jason and Beth, they were gracious because it did take a little bit longer to build it. But that comes with the territory. They got a piece that, even if there was an element, like, that's just not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody, like, if I brought it to their house and there was even, say, a scratch or a scuff somewhere, minute, they may have never even seen
So,
it.
it's
But I
awesome.
saw it.
Yeah,
And-
you'd be like
That's
him. You
awesome.
and Scott will be like best friends. Scott is such a, with the stuff that he does here at Etches and being that
Yeah.
like perfectionist to a T. Everything's got to have like every
It
detail.
does. Like, it has to. Like, if I even rubbed my hand over and felt a single grain
Uh-huh.
or a single grain of sand, that was not good enough.
Yeah, you're like that doesn't feel right. What's the most ridiculous request you've got? Like, are there? Obviously, you don't have to throw anyone under the bus. But
Yeah.
I'm curious of like.
Yes, Brandon, it was probably us.
No, I didn't think that it was you. When he's talking about working with billionaire clients, it's like, all right, so we want a 40-foot. Like I can imagine some. Crazy.
I would say the most crazy project I got was Jason and Beth's bed, or not bed, their table. No, I'm actually kidding about that. I had
Your
for.
bed. We need it extra sturdy on the right side.
Sorry. He needed more wood in his bed.
Yeah, but he wanted it extra sturdy on the right side, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, a little extra.
This is your website, right?
Yeah, that's my website. I
Oh,
would
look at
show
those
anyone
bookshelves.
my
I like it, the top
Facebook
left.
or Instagram page.
I was going to go to the Instagram. That's what I was getting ready to pull up, but I saw it. I saw this come up.
So
Jason, why don't
a
you have
downside
one of
of being a one-man shop is I don't exactly ever have time to change my website. It's probably been a couple of years since
What's
I've
the one
Did you
right
actually
there?
do the
That's
shuffleboard table?
shuffleboard?
I've built 3 shuffleboard tables.
Right, how is that not in your house?
Well, I didn't know he built one. I'm going to
know, but holy shit.
So when you ask what I build, when I say like if someone comes to me with a woodworking need, I'm going to make it happen. Because that's just what I do.
What is that? A media console, huh?
Media console.
Again, that's like,
Is
it's
that
almost
hidden door?
modern, but it's really cool.
I built one of those. It didn't look as
Yeah.
good as that.
It once again, if you pull up the Instagram
Should've
page, you'll
thought
see
I will.
You'll see the next level hidden door that was built. I think two years ago.
What if somebody had something that they wanted to kind of restore? Like, do you ever do any stuff like that?
I try not to.
Okay.
I do. I mean, like I have, but I really just I enjoy
You wanna have it
crafting
come-
pieces.
Yeah.
I enjoy being able to say like I as the artist built that. Like that was my piece.
Did it freeze?
Yeah. It doesn't want to go away from the.
And so
love
I've
you
built.
too. I don't know if you heard that. You were looking at his
What was
website,
it
but he was
saying?
just talking about all the little. I'm like, that is this guy to a T.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
I
I
don't
told
have my
him.
coffee mug here, but I know that's still. It's one of my favorite things because it's a one of one. But I know
Yeah.
for him, it
Got messed
drove
up.
him nuts.
And since it
I
got
tell-
messed up, I normally throw it in the trash.
Yep.
I told.
I don't want anything out there that doesn't
No, you
perfectly
can't.
represent my
You
brand.
cannot.
I told Montgomery
Yeah.
this. I said, you and Scott are going to get together, and you're going to start talking, and I'm going to have to be like, look, guys, it's been 3 hours. We're going to have to go. Like the two of you are going to you have a very different, very common mindset on the way that you want to put a product out there. You guys both run companies very comparable to the same way that you do. Like you've got a little bit more time in doing it here than he does. And I was like, my mindset really was like, you guys need to have some discussions about this because I look to you a lot of times on like discussion of business, propelling business forward. And we were talking about some struggles like that we've had as growing through our ages after the military and stuff like that. And I was like, Scott's helped me with a lot of those things too. Maybe you just chat with him for a few minutes. Maybe
Yeah.
Scott's
you'll realize
got a
it.
lot of gray hair. A lot.
Well,
I
think
started getting
Robin-
my first gray hairs in my beard lately. Like, is that happening?
Look at this. It's
Mine,
terrible.
I was about to say yours is in your. I started getting some of my beard like back here, but all up on my head
I
now.
always
My
have
barber's-
this-
And Brandon, to answer your question, the weirdest, but it was a really cool project. Like, an awesome project that I did. Very rich, very nice custom built home with an underground bunker. This project called for 8 twin size beds, or eight twin size bunk beds, 1 queen over queen bunk bed. Every single
that
bunk
thing.
bed
Queen
had
over
drawers.
queen bunk bed. Do you got a
Oh.
picture of that somewhere?
I don't know.
I've built 3 queen over queens
Queen
so
over
far.
queen.
Damn.
This sounds like
So-
a VRBO I want to visit.
If any of y'all want a king over king, that'd be a first for me.
Damn.
But willing to do it.
Okay, so what happens if I want a bed that's bigger than that? And first of all, I got to figure out the mattress
Yeah,
setup.
you would
but I
have to
eventually-
custom commission a mattress to be made by a company,
Like-
but
like
there are
Shaq
plenty of them
would.
out there.
Yeah,
His
believe me,
California
it's gonna
King
happen.
round one. Check out that big old piece of wood on the
I mean,
screen.
probably, yeah. It would be like some sort of California King, and I'd love to have like a live edge headboard. So
Absolutely.
that, I'm going to keep you in mind for that. But it's, people ask me about my bed, and they're like, when somebody gets married, it's a new couple, and they're like, we had friends of ours just recently get married, and they're like, like about 3 nights in, like we didn't want to snuggle anymore. Like it was like, are we weird? And we're like, no, because getting your sleep is important. And it doesn't mean that you don't love each other unless you're just like, hey, get your ass over on your side of the bed so I can sleep.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that. But they were like, you guys have a king size bed. And I'm like, look at me. You think I can have anything less than that? I'm like, we have a king size bed.
We
and I
started with
still
a
hang
king
off
size
of that.
bed, so we were good already ahead of it.
I still hang off that damn bed. So I'm like, one of these days,
Check
I'm
how
just gonna have
good
the
that
biggest bed.
looks.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
It's
The wood
awesome.
in that is ridiculous.
Even the pictures just
It
don't
looks like
do
water
it
is
justice.
reflecting over that, like as sun shines through water and it kind
Yeah.
of gets
Yeah.
that cool reflection on the bottom of the pool. It's like that's what that looks like through the wood.
When we can get the families together and social distancing and quarantine is not a thing. Well, you'll have to see it.
Whatever, we already know that yours is the bug out house. And like I can come.
We know where the 8 twin bunk beds
Yeah,
are,
right.
and
We know where the bunker
queen
downstairs
over queen
is.
two queen over
With the
queens.
bunker downstairs.
Jason's like, what you guys didn't know is there's a whole nother section of the house we didn't tell you.
Is that the
guys
queen
about.
over queen right there?
That is it.
I don't know where Brandon's going to sleep, but the rest of us will be okay.
I have actually done for a Parade of Homes my second year I think in business. It was 2 sets of quad queen over queen bunk beds. So it was 2 different walls. Each had a queen over queen with a staircase in between each one.
Man, it makes me kind of want Jenga furniture.
Right. Do you ever do any small stuff? Like I've got a friend of mine that does some woodwork, and he'll make like
Maybe
little
like
random things like
keychain?
bowls. No, like
Well, he
I
does
didn't
the
even hear what you
cornhole
said,
kits
but-
right here.
I don't build anything that small.
I've seen people just take like these little pieces of wood, and it's like you see this random piece of wood, and it's like, what would you do with that? And I watch them turn into a bowl or into the, like they turn it into-
Those doors
Ooh.
right there were actually 100+ years old doors out of India that got brought to me. They were yellow and they looked just like that, and they were completely sandblasted down. My helper at the time actually hand engraved every single inch of those doors back to bring them back to their natural life after
Damn.
Wow.
sandblasting. And
Somebody, dude, fire money, some money emoji.
I'm telling you, like I've watched his page for
That's a
quite some
stunning
time
piece.
because we served together and we were friends while we were in.
But the door handles are off.
So is your wife
Go
cool with
back
your
to it.
obsession with wood?
Go back to it.
yeah,
Go back to it.
Does she ever have any weird requests since she
Slightly
basically has
lower.
the master, at her
that?
fingertips?
they don't
of-
ever have time to build anything
You
personal.
see that in India? They didn't do. Oh, you missed it. Just slightly off. Oh. But that's not your fault. That I know. That
Yeah, it was done
I
right
didn't
somewhere
install the door handles, so it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, like painters. Whenever you build
Uh-huh.
cabinets, and
You would
like,
notice shit. Like
Yeah.
I
Is
get
that
it.
your next level
Honestly,
hidden door?
I
yeah,
look at
that
people
was
and I
the
notice
next
shit
level
like
hidden
that.
door. Those doors, I think, were anywhere from like 14, 16 foot tall, or not the doors, but the whole opening. But the doors were 8 foot tall just for the doors. A
I
little
need a
over 4
secret
foot
door
wide.
coming into the back. Wouldn't that be badass?
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be hidden when he's coming in the back.
Like we'll just
He always wants
bookcase
to
out
be
that
in when he's
whole
coming back.
wall.
Nobody, he doesn't want anyone to
You know what's
that.
funny is he did that. He made those amazing secret doors, and we couldn't hang one that was pre-hung.
It was already hung.
It was framed and ready for to be.
It's hard to
Oh,
do
wait, it
it
was
when it's
hanging.
already hung. What are you gonna do?
My wife doesn't have a hard time doing me, and I'm pre-hung.
And like even in that photo, like you asked how I got into starting.
Don't forget,
It-
ladies and gentlemen, hot dog lipstick. By the way, that got mentioned to me quite a few times off of our last
Me
episode.
too.
It was hilarious.
So those pictures are some of the bunk beds that were built.
Did you derive a lot of experiences from your basic training open bay? Because that's what
Oh,
I feel
man.
like looking at that. Like, this is the highest end basic
Right?
training open bay I've ever seen.
That's where your
I like that
fraternity,
little
frat
door
boys,
at the
and
top. I mean, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
You don't ever see shit like that.
no,
Unless you go to the military.
or
Alright.
unless you have Longhorn Woodworks build it for you.
All right, Jason, I'm
But you don't
gonna
get
need
a
you to.
Woody.
I'm gonna need you to get into some of these stories that you were sort of dropping previously. That
I don't want to hear Jason's stories.
no,
wanna
I
hear
want him
Montgomery's stories.
military to
Jason.
military. I feel like he can ask,
So
and we
me
can
and-
see where this.
Me and Jason have already brought up one topic I have not elaborated on. I just simply told him on Facebook. When I first got out of basic training in AIT and showed up to my unit, which Jason was already serving under at the time, I did a competition called Warfighter. Tried out for it, made the team. Well, as we were training for that competition, our NCOIC, so our leader for training us for the competition, was Jason's NCOIC for.
What did you guys win that year? Did you guys place?
We took fifth.
What is
Okay,
this
so, hey, that's-
competition?
So this competition is the 3 best military police soldiers of every base, basically throughout the U.S.
So I did the same thing when I went in. I won the second year I did it. I got second the first year that I did it, and basically what it was when I came in, and I'm several years ahead of entering than Montgomery. MPs used to not be able to go to Ranger School.
Yep.
Rangers have the Ranger Challenge, all that big, huge competition that everybody knows about. So, not to be outdone, we developed and started our own challenge version of it. It used to be called War.
It was always Warfighter, I
Yeah,
thought.
I think
and then
I
it was
think it was-
Warrior Police after that.
Yeah, it was Warfighter, and then I went to like some very generic.
Because I did like both of them, like right at that transition was my second time.
And Fort Leonard Wood always generally had a pretty good team because we were the home of the regiment. So
We knew the courses.
everything was done there. I mean,
So what
we
did
were
it
able to
consist
practice
of?
on
Like,
it.
what'd you have to do?
A lot of sleep deprivation. but
American Ninja
Oh yeah,
Warrior.
like you'd have a 3-day competition that would always start with a physical fitness challenge first, and it's not like your normal physical fitness challenge, like your normal Army physical fitness challenge. You'd have running, sit-ups, and push-ups. Well, this one would be
sit-ups on an incline with a 35-pound weight in your chest, your
or
2-mile run.
push-ups. Your feet may be inclined, or you'd have rope climb, things like that as well.
Your run would be in boots and utes and carrying a gun and a rifle and a backpack, and it'd be 5 miles instead of 2 miles, and graded on a different scale. So then you go directly from that to maybe getting a chance to eat something. Or
Yeah, we ate
I love how you say it
beforehand.
so
Yeah,
easily,
like we were
too.
just let's go,
and
let's
then
get started.
Well, it depended on like when the next travel was, because then you'd go to a shooting competition, and you'd
Just
go
say
and
it so easily.
You'd
like,
go
it's
shoot.
just 5 miles. I'm like, damn.
Well,
man.
see, then you'd go shoot, and then at the end of that, like you'd have your weapons, so you'd have to clean your weapons or whatever. So then they'd make you do a blindfolded disassembly and reassembly of them, like.
And you would do with the 50 caliber. You'd have your M4,
249, M4, M9.
your 9mm. Yeah.
So when we would practice it, like the year I got second, I was in Korea doing from it, and they used to basically take apart the rifle, the handgun, and the 249, and put all the parts in a box and set it underneath a cardboard box underneath you in a chair, blindfold you, and say start. And they would time you. You'd have to pull it out, sort the 3 weapons into pieces, reassemble the weapon, and do a functions check. And like the goal was to get all 3 done in under 5 minutes of finding the parts, blindfolded, put them in piece together, assemble it, do a function check, and then you can pull the blindfold off. It'd be under
so
5
you'd
minutes.
With no
separate them
YouTube
all.
video.
Yeah, with no YouTube.
Yeah,
video.
no
Yeah, I was about to
YouTube.
say, what the hell? So you'd separate them all out. You had 5 minutes to do that.
No,
and you'd
you had 5 minutes to
do
separate
everything.
it. Yeah, to do the whole thing. So
no effing way.
So we
not
did
to,
the mark.
not to necessarily compare the two, by the way, but I've seen the. I don't know if you've ever seen the chess masters that go against each other blindfolded. So they're literally keeping track of your moves and their moves blindfolded on a board while trying to play and figure out how they're going to beat you. And I've watched guys that are chess masters go up against like people that are good but not quite there, and they'll play 4 boards all at once, literally with just these blindfolds on, and they're just like, oh yeah, move this here, move this here. Yeah, I got you. Checkmate. Okay, and then they're on these, and they remember. You're in your head. You're remembering what exactly is going on.
And that's
in
their
that.
lifestyle. I mean, these 4 guns were our everyday weapons. So, like, the reason it's named Warfighter is because we were in the middle of Iraq, Afghanistan. Like, this was what it required to be able to know that we could go over there, be as the #1 fighting force in the world, survive, come home.
So you had to be best friends with your gun.
This is my rifle. This is my gun.
Okay, so what else you got to do?
You would have you'd have medical challenges. Like you may have a downed helicopter,
Yep.
and your team just showed up. What are you going to do? Or there may be, and you may even have a chemical element. Like there may have been some type of gas that was released, and you're going to show up to the crash, smell like something's not right about this, and you would be graded. Like how quickly did you catch on that something actually
Was
was
leaked into the
wrong?
environment.
How quickly did you get your protective equipment
Your
on?
stuff on, yeah.
And then
A little bit higher than N95 masks.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I could see that.
So we'd have that.
I mean,
You'd
at least
have
you tried.
you'd have Army knowledge training. You know, like what parts of the regulation do you know?
Written test.
Yeah.
You did take a written test.
And all this is done over a course of 3 days. You maybe get 2 or 3 hours a night of rest, and your rest is in a tent somewhere. And you got to where that tent was based off a grid coordinate. So you may be anywhere else in the base, just in the middle of the woods. You have a map and a grid coordinate. You figure out how to get there. You're also challenged on how quickly did you get there. You wake up the next morning, you get a new set of grid coordinates. You don't know what the challenge is. You're navigating through the woods to try to get to that next challenge
Just
point.
like orienteering, you have to stop at a certain spot and get like a punch hole clip on your.
So it's pretty intense.
Well, and then it would.
You could say that.
Everyone, the
They're
two
not
that I
just
did,
runs, as
we
people would
ended
think.
A
at
15-mile ruck march.
and that we ended at the 2 that I did early on were we ended at the Warrior Tower. So, which have you ever seen the movie Renaissance Man or any Army movies where they're doing the rappelling off that giant side of the building, like their 3-rope bridge across and stuff like that. So that was kind of like always our end of it. Like you would do an overnight. They'd take us out at 2 a.m, black light. or a red light, totally pitch black out.
Yeah, because you had your basic Army L-shaped flashlight. You were only allowed red lens at any point in time you were doing something at nighttime. That was it. So you can maybe see 2-3 feet in front of you at any given time.
And you'd be in a team of 3 people. So like you learn to say like, all right, I shoot my azimuth in a direction, but I can only see so far. So like Montgomery, go stand out there until I tell you to stop. Move left, left, left. All right, you're directly in line with me. And then I would send the third person go to where Montgomery is, and they'd run past it. I'd come to Montgomery and I'd be like, all right, there, right, left, left, and then he would leapfrog the other person. So I'd keep shooting my azimuth to say like, we need to go 1,500 meters at 47 degrees from this point, and it'd be 2 a.m. in the middle of the Ozarks Mountains out there. Like we'd be going up and down these hills and mountains through trees, timbers, thistles, like all of that jazz.
No Sasquatches.
Well, I remember, and you're not allowed to use any type of improved roads. Anything that was man-made, you're not allowed to take. And I remember my first year, we literally came out going through the map. Well, now we're at a swamp, or it's just a marsh. Not anything on the map. It's just a marsh. Well, where do you go? Do you go left? Do you go right? If you go right, you're on a man-made road. If you're on a left, how long does this marsh and this swamp continue on going? Mm-hmm. We'd get to some hills even where you just cross through a river. Well, now you're going to climb up a hill that's 300-400 feet high that literally you're grabbing onto roots trying to pull yourself up. But
while trying to count your steps to calculate your distance.
And you're being timed. And so you can't navigate around this big mountain because how else?
You have to get to the point where, like, and this is where the practice comes in for it. Because, like, so you know, like, when you're taking a half step, how many half steps and full steps it takes to make a 100-meter distance on it. So then if you're falling or sliding down, like, you have to learn to be able to calculate and know your own distance by gauging how far you can go. One of those things where, like, let's just say you get up in your house tonight, eyes closed, but you know you have to go to the restroom. Can you walk from where your bed's at, out around the bed, through the door to the master suite bathroom, and walk into the toilet and relieve yourself without opening your eyes? You had to learn. You had to get that good with being able to count your steps and know where your body was on it, just the same way that those chess masters were.
And then as you do it, you're dealing with every other MP base throughout the entire MP Corps of their 3 best soldiers who are also equally as good.
Every unit in the world would send their best 3 soldiers in a team and say, we're competing to be the best in the world, and say we're the number 1 MP team in the world.
So is there any like reputation within that stuff? Like, is there anybody like, oh, this is the team with this guy, or people know this person, or is it just like, hey, this is a team of?
Well, I mean, it kind of gets that way. Like, there's enough people that,
like, do you show up and they're like, oh shit, Jason Albert's here? Like, does stuff like that get around, or do you even know, or is it just like, well, there's?
Well, it depends on if I competed it a lot. I mean, like when I did it, I actually had a ranger was on my team because he had reclassed back to. And which is how we did so well, because my team leader had done this stuff in the Ranger Corps. So while we were just 2 dumb, like very physically athletic guys, like he was the brains of the operation.
Right,
we were just able to
just tell us what to do.
Yeah, tell me what to do. And then he left and he went to special operations. So it's kind of why, for me, it was always like we needed to just do more, because while I love the MP Corps, there was a lot of it for pompous show, and like it was dog and pony on all the time. So while we were training an effective small group to be able to say that they were the best of what they did, we weren't training the masses a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And I always wanted to be on group. I always wanted to be in the Delta world. I always wanted to end up being Jason Bourne, all that stuff, because it was impressive to me, the units that could do it and not do it for the right. Jason A, not Jason B.
Yeah.
And not do it for the dog and pony, the pompous show. So that was the crazy part about it. But you were talking about Haviland and training you guys.
Yeah.
What basically comes up out of this is I was on the SRT at that time, so the Special Reaction Team, SWAT team, and
SRT, got it. Okay.
I went complete dodge on that.
And it's not the Special Reaction Team.
Not team.
It is Special Reaction Team.
Yeah, you're not on the SRT team. Special Reaction Team. Sure. It's like calling a canine dog. It's not a dog. It's a canine. I am a military working dog handler or military working canine handler. Not dog. But
woof woof.
So in every environment that's of this kind of training, we have the opposition or Op 4. So it's just kind of, I don't
The
even know what the
enemy.
4 comes from. Yeah, they're the remote enemy. And Haviland had them on the Op4 team for us. So we were, the special reaction team would show up to a training
You're the bad
environment.
guy.
Yeah.
No, we were the volunteer beating. Like they were the beating stick. We were the ones who just got beat.
So it was a bit bad guy, right? You'd show up and you need to go clear a house, just like a SWAT team would. And you were basically in that environment where you were like, all right, how do we enter this? Like we hear simunittion rounds, paint rounds being shot through it that are going to leave marks. They're way worse than paintball rounds.
I've still got scars. Which that'll be a whole. There's 2 stories to tell. That will be
All
a
right,
second
go ahead.
one.
Come on.
You can lead from that. So the Op4, he's playing on the Op4. I'm on the SWAT team, getting ready to make entry into it. There's another guy, Ross Semidet.
Yep.
Another buddy. He and I rotated back and forth between being the shield man.
guy.
Like
Yeah.
I love being the shield guy. Like you ran the risk of being shot, but that's why you carried a bulletproof shield.
Right.
But you also got to pancake and smash people, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I
So
like the sound of that.
So there were two most memorable encounters with Jason during this time. The first one was one of the first couple days because the NCOIC Haviland, who was training the team, was also training us for the competition. And so me and one of the other soldiers, we were the guinea pigs. He's like, hey, you know what? Like, you're going to be our SRT.
I need bodies.
Basically.
Give me bodies.
Uh-huh.
And so, one of our first days that we did it, we were in a bank. I'm telling you, this is why it's so memorable, because my memory's a little hazy about things in life. But that, we were told, or like we were in a bank, there was a hostage situation. Some of us were good guys, some of us were just hostages. I was a hostage in this situation. But a hostage that once the team was able to come in and get some of us to safety. Some of us were told, like, hey, go to this room while we finish clearing the building. So that's where we were at. But then we were told to leave the room whenever they had control over the bad guy in this scenario. As they told us hostages, me and Stedman at the time, hey, you guys are good. Y'all can leave the building. We need you to crawl on all fours to get to the door. We're crawling, and I think maybe 5 or 6 members of the team unloaded every round out of their magazine into us that they could, just for kicks and giggles. I mean, there are still scars on my arms and legs and body.
I'm partially certain that was one of those Haviland things of him being like, I want to see how tough they are. Just shoot the piss out of them.
Yeah, and so you're literally talking about an actual M4 with an actual 5.56 cartridge, just a little less grain in it, and a hard plastic cap coming at you. And you're made between each member has a 30-round mag because technically they got the bad guys. We found out there weren't bad guys in this scenario. The whole thing was for them to go through the building and then shoot us. So, yeah, I do think that you are correct on this.
You have to understand, like, first off, this dude was a pretty bad dude. Like, he was of the mindset, like, this guy would smoke 3-4 cigarettes before we went for a 2-mile run.
Oh, he'd do it during our 15-mile ruck marches and would still beat us.
Destroy it. I mean, he was 10, 12, 15 years older than us and would destroy us on that while smoking in the middle of a 2-mile run or
So
something
like
like that.
Michael Jordan used to be. They talk about how Michael Jordan would show up before the game and the buses would be in the back and he'd come rolling up smoking a cigar and he'd be like, who's got me tonight? And they'd be like, what the hell? And he would go out and whoop their ass.
Yep.
Yeah.
So all that happened. And then as the Op4, our job, we were told by Haviland also, make it as hard as you possibly can for them to get to you. Because that was the whole part of them training is, like typically.
The bad guy's not going to give up, so you shouldn't give up.
Yeah, and if SRT or SWAT's showing up, then it's something extraordinary that the normal police force can't get to them. But we were also warned, the harder it is for them to get to us, the harder they were coming down on us. And there was one instance
What a shitty thing to get told. It's like, hey, don't make it easy on them. But the harder that it is.
And as the guy who's making entry, and you went to the team after.
Oh yeah,
this,
I was
right?
on the team after. I was a show guy. Like I took full. Like I understand.
Oh, it's like
know
a
how-
thing. It's like the next person, the next group that comes.
And I told you
still
this in
get
the text
chosen
message.
for the
yeah.
team, so it's not like the next people, but in a way.
Well, it's like the
you
next
earn
ones that
your-
come in under you. It's like, you're
Yeah,
gonna
you
get the
earn the
same
notch.
work that
You
I
earn the
got.
notches a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I told
Like a
him,
fraternity.
Yeah, it's hazing.
well, what I told him is, so you'll get this, is the harder it is for me to make entry to that building, like, it doesn't matter if it's training or not. You always take it. You train as you fight. You're always taking it seriously. So if I'm trying to kick a door in, or and I'm getting stupid hot and sweaty, and I'm carrying all this shit around, and I'm like, man, this is just irritating me. Like, now I just want to make whoever is making this happen pay to me. Like, and I would do it to. I would do it to a school shooter or anybody anyway, because like we trained a lot at that time on school shootings, and that was one of the thought processes that always went through my mind was like I would, if this was to be the happening, I'd love to be able to take that out on the person on the bad side, because I'm the first and the only person who's probably going to get that chance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, you as a parent, as parents, like, you know what you'd say if somebody went into your school and slapped your kid. Like, let me at that motherfucker. Well, but if you knew,
Depends what you did.
but if the cop, if you knew me as the
someone slap your kid, I don't think so.
But if you knew me as the cop,
to be
and I got to go in and I got to like literally smash him in the face with a giant, heavy, like
About
bulletproof
a
shield.
25-pound shield.
Yeah, with that, had bank window in the middle of it, like so you could see when you were walking
Kevlar.
through.
I'd love that,
Yeah,
and then
why
I'd
not?
love to return a slap. I'm just saying, like, yeah, it'd be great.
And so me and Stedman made one of the rooms. It was upstairs. We had already barricaded just about every room of every floor to get in to this house in the first place. The top floor, which is where we are, we've got barricade anywhere from couches, beds, dressers, anything that could possibly hold this door back. Like, they somehow got in. Like, I mean, it took them 5-10 minutes to get into that room, but they finally
I think
did.
we came in through the window on that one. Was that the 2-story? Was the 2-story with the big projector TV downstairs?
Yes. Yeah.
I think we came in through the window. I think we climbed the garage and we.
So maybe that was
grappled-
how y'all finally got into that room.
grappled
And yes, because we were trapped.
Yeah.
Like, we were trapped because we made it where they
You
couldn't
made it
get
where they couldn't
in.
get in.
We couldn't
So they
get
were
out.
just fucked.
Uh-huh.
And so Stedman had gone into, let's say, a bathroom, a closet, something like that. He broke away.
This is who was
Jason-
with you.
What's that?
This is who was with you.
That was who was with
Okay.
me as the other op four. Jason comes in like a bull, shield, everything. And keep in mind, the shield guy's also got Kevlar elbow, from your wrist all the way up.
You're just a human bat.
Is
Oh, I look like a catcher.
or like
you
a
look
jug-
you got
he's
legs.
like a juggernaut, like
Yeah,
basically coming in.
I'm a juggernaut, bitch.
You've got,
sitting there like-
you've got Kevlar legs, like
Yeah.
a catcher's
Dude, I
legs.
could see him sitting there like, I didn't sign up to be the pinata. I didn't sign up to be the pinata.
Well, I don't know. We were young and dumb and embraced it. It was almost like fun, and you knew what was coming.
Oh, those were the best days.
However, I only thought I knew what was coming. Here comes Jason, plows over me with the shield. I am just
I need like
leveled.
a Netflix documentary of this.
I am leveled, face on the ground. But the worst part of it, like he said, like catchers, he's also got shin guards on that have caps on the knees made of Kevlar too. And he came down with that Kevlar knee to the back of my neck, full weight, full force, and pinned me down. And I am still paying
As
for that in
any
my neck
good
today.
officer would to the bad guy.
So it's because of you that he needs people like me. Got it.
Oh yeah, like my neck has paid the price ever since then. Like,
Oh yeah, you told us this story. Like, he's gonna swear by this. I mean, whatever.
however, Jason, when I went through SRT school, I pulled that same move on one of the instructors. We were in the meth house. If you remember what that one was, I was a shield guy. All the team members were in a room. I'm the only guy in the hallway. Instructor, who was op for at this time, came running through one of the rooms, ran, tackled him, put my knee in the back of his neck. Next thing you know, every light of that schoolhouse came on, and I was screamed and hollered to get out. I almost got kicked out of school because I did that.
I did the same thing in school. So, it's.
I have a feeling he paid a premium for this table.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I asked him on the way in if he applied that military
I
discount.
don't
to it.
discuss pricing.
Yeah, he's like, there was a military discount, but then there was also a go for
An SRT increase,
yeah.
right?
Every piece is unique.
So the good thing about being
GFY increase.
the good thing about being from Fort Leonard Wood, and we were able to train in this STEM village of it. We knew all the secrets to all of that stuff. So by the time you went to the SWAT school, SRT school, you knew where all the doors were. Like, they had tunnels through underneath the.
You could go from one building to another through like a tunnel underground between houses.
Yeah, so you could run through the village basically without being detected at all. You could go through under the counters behind like false walls. You could sneak behind hot water heaters.
This is like
and
basically the
yeah.
coolest version of hide and go seek ever. Like
Oh,
as a
epic.
goal, you're just like hell yeah.
And you get
bitch,
to play
ain't
with
gonna
guns.
find me.
And, yeah, and you
Exactly.
have the baddest paintball
I'm
guns
listening
in
to
the
this. I'm
world.
like, somebody needs to create this for civilians to be able to go through and just take them through
A,
this.
They do,
a real
actually. There's a
escape
few.
room.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so we
Come on.
The reason I ask is if it was the projector, the one that had the false
Yeah.
projector. So it was one of the big old school, like on the mount, like flat, like
Yeah.
deep tube TVs for projectors, and you could open it up and you could get inside it. And so you could be hiding inside there. And when I went through school, I knew that, and I pancaked the fuck out of the guy who was in there from it. Like I straight went through the lens on it with my shield because I knew
I know someone's in there.
because I knew somebody was in there. So I went straight through the front of it and like smashed a dude down.
Literally. Do you know anything about X-Men, the Juggernaut? The Juggernaut's a character that literally just has this
It's just
giant metal
invincible.
dome over, and he just literally plows through everything. And there's also a YouTube that's like a spoof of it. Essentially, it's a voiceover where people are doing it, and they're doing it as if they're the voice. And you should look up "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch," and he's like, "What's that? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!" Like literally, he's just
Here.
like wiping people.
This
Yeah,
one.
that's the Juggernaut.
Okay.
He's got smaller arms.
Yeah, when I went through the school as well, our day one, we went through one of the houses, and I was a shield guy. We dumped past a couple of rooms. Some people went into some of the rooms. Some of the other team members, instructors were shooting at us. Well, shield guy, that's your job. Run into the fire. Like your team gets to them. The minute that happened, I continued going towards the threat, which was the instructor. Next thing I know, I got shot in the back going past another room because my team tucked into one of the rooms
'Cause
and
they
didn't
pitched
stay
out?
behind the shield guy.
So-
And I laid on the shield. And the instructor, the team couldn't continue until they got the shield back to protect the team. As that my dead body is laying on
Right.
top of it. So you get to have a lot of fun with it too.
The big difference that we had in the military was when I started on it, that was an extra duty for us. To be on the SRT was one, you qualified for it, so you got to be a part of it. So it was kind of cool,
Mhm.
but it was extra duty. So like 3 weeks of the a month, I would basically do my regular job, and then 1 week we'd do all the training we could to train catch up to it.
Gotcha.
You guys actually got an office, and you guys went.
That
and
was
hung
our
out-
job.
You guys went and hung out in there, and you did training, and you worked.
We
out
actually
every
went
day.
on Fort Leonard Wood's first ever live call for SRT as well.
So we did, man, I never actually got to make entry on a live call, but
Yeah, y'all went to it. Like we were the first ones to actually get to make entry go.
we
and-
did an entry on the first star, so like 787's star barracks, their chow hall
Yeah.
for a guy from off post. We did because he was supposed to have worked there and was supposed to be there that day. And we made entry in there, but I mean we didn't get to do anything, so it was pointless on that. And then the Westboro Baptist Church like had come to post, and so I was on an M40 there with that when they were at the front gate, but obviously we couldn't do anything. So
Yeah.
I mean we didn't get to end that. That was like 2005, 6, something like that. Like they were protesting at the front gates of Fort Leonard Wood back then, and I was able to be a part of that. We could have ended it really early, and I'd probably be out of jail by now.
So it sounds like camp, but with guns.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we all describe the Army like.
Yeah.
That's what we all describe the Army like.
So other than getting your neck snapped by Jason, like give me a story of like a really shitty experience
In the
in
military.
any of it. Yeah, like give me I mean, hey, if you got something else that comes to mind.
Or with
Or how about what is the scaredest you've been?
Probably when he got his neck snapped, but I mean,
Making entry on a live entry and on an SR right before
I
you.
don't know. That was exciting.
I know, but
I was looking forward. I was happy about that.
well, I would agree, but like that's probably it's the same as like starting any mission
Yeah.
I would have done in
You
combat.
still don't
like,
know what
You don't know
what's on the other end of that door. You
Sure.
don't.
excitement and fear can be a similar.
And on our
like,
live
you're
entry,
just-
the guy
yeah.
ended up being upstairs. So you're literally clearing the entire downstairs. Like this guy's still not here. Like,
and he's preparing because he hears
and
us
if
down
it's
here.
upstairs, that's a fatal funnel that we're going to be going up a staircase that should he be
can
armed
shoot down
upstairs.
into,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, there is a realistic aspect to it. Like, it's exciting, but it's serious at the same time.
Because if somebody walks around with a 12 gauge or something like that, like I don't care if it's bulletproof shield or not. My forearms broke easy at a very minimum. Like I'm gonna take full shot to that arm, like holding a shield.
Your bone would probably shatter just from concussion of a round hit in a shin or a forearm.
So it like it was always even that way when we were doing training stuff. It was super exciting. It was fun, and like sometimes you hated it because it was work, and you knew you were gonna get messed up to some extent. Like when we would do the schools and stuff, and we'd go to that closed down school at the back of post, be going through there, and I'd be like, God, we're gonna be in this thing for like an hour and a half, and I am carrying around Kevlar catcher's equipment.
I forget what it was called when the base has technically from the from the chemical center.
Yeah, CDTF.
Like chemical would happen. We had, think of like Walmart, but a Walmart that would also have like 24 other stores within it. So closed doors
like
and
a
everything.
flea market.
Kind of, but undercover.
It was basically a mall, but instead of so it was all kiosks and small malls, but there was one giant anchor store that would be like a Walmart.
Yeah, and so like we'd have one training instance or event where like every year, like this was a big training, like the whole base. Supposedly a chemical would get taken from the facility, and we're trying to figure out where it is on base. Well, in our scenario, one of the years it was a kidnapping terrorist incident. So they were in this building, and this building, like I'll bring up Walmart because that's about the size of this place, except for it's not just one open floor. You've got hallways, you've got rooms, you've got doors. We have to clear it. Middle of summertime. This is an abandoned building. Like you're in your chemical suit, chemical mask. This training exercise could take 5, 6, 7 hours. By the time it's done, you're taking your gloves and your boots off and
dumping
pouring
water.
Sweat. Like you can squeeze your hands and just feel like up to your elbows in your gloves alone.
Ross passed out. So like we did one at CDTF, and we got in a police chase with it, and we had to the guy wrecked a vehicle.
There's someone in like the trunk of a vehicle or something like that year.
I don't remember exactly what happened, but it was going out the west gate, and they like wrecked the vehicle, took off up a hillside. And so we were in those full-on Army M40 gas masks or whatever it was, and
that's like breathing through a straw. Like,
and then you're wearing consider overalls that have like a charcoal layer inside it, which is also supposed to be able to protect us from GX and V gases or whatever. And
your body armor.
Then your body armor on top of it, your Kevlar helmet on top of that.
About 50 pounds of shit.
And then you're carrying battle rounds, so you're carrying extra mags and all that stuff on you. You've got your weapon on you. We've got a sidearm on us, and I've got a shield. I'm not carrying a rifle. I'm carrying 2 handguns, and we have to go up a rock, like a limestone wall that trees are growing off of, and go up and through it. And Ross and we actually had 2 teams at that time, and so Ross and I were both on shield duty for it, and we went up and down. And at that point in time, like,
how the shit do you pull that off with a shield?
You and I were both in a lot better shape back then.
Oh yeah.
And Ross was bigger than me at that time, and but we were still in great shape. And that dude, by the time we came back down, we were getting ready to go into a clean down facility. So like they have a mobile clean down facility. You walk in and they peel each layer off of you and clean you down. The people that are inside it are basically it's what you would imagine a corona virus right now, right? If you were to walk in, or how they're taking their hazmat suits off at the end of the day. Like take a piece off, clean their whole body down with soap and everything, and then you take the next, like the hood off, and you clean it all down. So then you get to the point where like you're just basically there standing in your underwear, and you get they hand you an outfit to put on, your battle dress uniform, and you put it on, you go get in the truck and roll away. But he was like this far, like he was inches away from getting there, and like he straight passed out, wearing the mask, his helmet, all of that stuff. And like they had to just split it and cut him all open right then and there. I mean, because we were past the training site. Now it was training for the people who would be cleaning us off to get us out of it. And they were like, fuck that, you're not going to clean that. You go clean the other 13 guys. Don't clean this guy. Like we need to make sure that he starts getting IV fluids into him, because he's trashed. Like he was just like they wore him clean the slap out. I mean, that was the big part for us as bigger guys, as shield. Like we're carrying, this big heavy shield. We're in catcher's legs and protective and all of that stuff, climbing up a limestone wall, holding onto trees, all of that stuff. sometimes I wonder why I did it, and then I think back about how much fun it was.
Yeah, it was a blast
on
at
the fun
time.
days.
And Brandon, you asked about probably the worst. I would be curious if Jason had a different worst. Like I've had time to think about it. Getting pepper sprayed was the absolute worst. Especially when we had it. Haviland did ours, and a lot of times pepper spray, especially in training, would be water based. We got oil based, and like you can see this sinister smile in Haviland's face whenever he would talk to us about what was gonna why we were getting oil based instead. And it doesn't wash away. It doesn't go away.
So I had it. I was sprayed twice by Haviland, and it was not as bad as the first time I had it, because the first time that it happened to me, I was overseas, and they made us do it with our eyes open.
No, ours were open.
So we didn't have to do it in training. When we did it with Haviland for the rate,
you had your eyes closed and blinked. And
yeah, we were able to keep our eyes closed and blink, but they would not spray us if our eyes were not open.
Yeah.
So we turned around and I looked directly at the guy, and they do a Z pattern. So their intent is to come across your forehead, down across your nose, then across your face or across your mouth.
Assuming you don't move.
This MFer starts he went straight across my eyes. Like I remember feeling the bead hit my eye and down, and at that point in time, I was on the warfighter team at that time. That was the good team that I was on, and we, I mean, it was horrible.
No matter how tough you are, like if you get it open eyed like that, and every time you blink, you're literally blinking shards. Like almost kind of like a crystallized shard of pepper.
But it worked for me.
I always laugh because I talk about when you have tough guys and you see somebody whip that stuff out, and I'm like, oh, instant bitch. Like you just watch them fold. They're like, I immediately regret everything.
It gets to the point where you become kind of accustomed to it. You know what the pain level is at. So it's kind of, I would imagine it's like getting a tattoo. I don't have a tattoo, but
I've experienced
times.
But what I'm saying is it starts. And by the time you're done with it, you're like, I could withstand that.
I was on the other side of it. Mine literally lasted for a couple of days. I could not go in a building that had lights without sunglasses on because I had reacted so strong to it.
See, that's bad.
Not only do you get sprayed, then you have a simulation type course of different skills that would have to do. So
you'd have to get sprayed and then do shit.
Yeah, so that's the reason we did it.
That makes sense.
As law enforcement,
by an enemy, you'd need to know how to.
Well, you'd have to remember what you're supposed to do at each station.
It was even more than that because we were spraying. If I'm spraying you, I'm going to get spray back. It goes airborne, so I'm going to have to arrest you now.
Or it may be a big guy that I was trying to hold you down and it's not working and he has to spray. I'm going to get sprayed at the same time too.
So yeah, you have to go around.
My only interaction with it was the fact that my dad was a sheriff deputy and my stepdad was in the town that I grew up, and he would spray it where our dogs would dig to keep them out of it. And I was downwind in our yard and he sprayed it and it hit me and I was like, what in the hell? And he's like, whoops, and literally was like, okay, let's come on. And I was dying. I was choking and coughing. I'm like, what the hell is this? Yeah. Horrible. And then we also, so I actually have a funny story. My real dad and my stepmom, who work in the same business, they had a guy come in one time that wanted to close out his account. Well, my mom was like, fine. Took him back into one of the exam rooms. 20-30 minutes later they leave and she comes out and she goes and gets my dad, and next thing I know my dad's like, all right, we're going to this place. I'm like, what the hell's going on? He goes, that guy cornered your mom in that room. He was threatening her and all this. And my dad was immediately if I would have known that.
It's a good thing he's a tiny guy.
Yeah. I'm like, if he would have known that, my dad used to be a bouncer. My dad's ridiculous. He's got some ridiculous stories and anything in comparison to anything I've ever done. I'm like, I think my dad probably would have destroyed that man. But we went to a place and picked up stuff, and I remember they got two different ones. There was one that they had sitting in the you'd never know where it was. Only you would know. And it was if anything happens again, it's up here. You could grab it. But one of the ones that the guy, when they were buying it, recommended was this gel one. It's a gel spray that sprays up to 18 feet.
Yeah.
And they have a picture of what it looks like on a dummy, and it just looks like lava across someone's face. And they're like, and so we're asking.
That's the stuff we're talking about that we got.
That's the exact stuff we're talking about.
They're asking what do you do? And they're like, once you've done that to someone, or if something happens, what do you do? Trying to ask, and they're like, you just let it take its course. He's like, there's not much you can do.
So if it's oil based and you go to wash it off, oil's activated by water, so it just gets worse every single time.
So we actually used to get to the point where pranking. This is before you were in. We were in the old 252 building, and we would spray it into each other's heaters vents. So you get in the car on mids, you jump in your car and you crank your heater up because it'd be in the middle of winter while we were in Missouri, and that below that stuff, and you had to drive around the rest of the patrol.
What a gas! Damn.
So you get rid of expired cans somehow.
Like gel-based stuff, essentially. That was what you got.
That's what we trained with. That's what the team had.
What is the appropriate, like, what the hell do you do for that if water's not the
Like, really, milk helps. Like no matter what you do, water helps, milk helps. Putting your face in a freezer helps.
It's just got to wear it down.
your face in a freezer?
Oh no,
Not
literally.
even kidding. Not even kidding.
Like you're even pulling drawers out of your fridge so you can get in the fridge if you could.
I'm talking like downwind, and I remember like I'm dying. I can't imagine a straight shot to the face.
Showering with your swimsuit on is the most important follow-up.
Yep.
Though.
So you don't get it on.
And you have to do it like you've got
So
the
don't
worst
wipe
case
your
of
ass and then wipe
morning
your
wood
ass.
you've ever had. Like you have to be when you're showering too. You got to have the worst case of morning wood, like hands on the
So it
back.
don't run straight down.
So it doesn't run straight down. Like you have to try and let the water go straight.
It's like hot
You don't want
wings.
any of that
wanna-
getting on you.
You
Got
don't
it.
want to touch your
None.
face after you eat the hot wings.
No.
Damn.
We may be able to cut this and go into 2 episodes. We've been on for a while.
I was about to say, I kind of expected it when you've got the chance to hear stories like this. Like again,
It was fun. I mean, I loved being at Fort Leonard Wood. I mean, out of my 10 years there, like I think I spent like 7 years stationed there. Now it was very different at the end. When I was
It changed because battalion came to us.
what was it? Yeah, the 1st Battalion or 7th Army, 1st Battalion.
Or no, I'm sorry, brigade. Brigade. Like we were the home of the military police.
Well, so and it was always that way when I first got there, but it was still kind of like a training land in Wild West. Like when we were on SRT, we would go out and we'd go out and do like rappelling, and we would do all kinds of stuff like for woodland rescues because we were in the Ozark Mountains. We were not far from Lake of the Ozarks. Everything like Ozark season 3 just came out. Like a lot of those places that are in that movie, we have been at and hung out there before, and so there was a lot of stuff to do there, and it was really cool. And then it became big Army, like a bunch of big units started moving in there because it was excess land.
Was it always TRADOC?
It was always TRADOC when I started there. So it was always. There was always a major amount of training and doctrine there. The Maneuver and Support Center got a lot bigger. So Manson Center got really big, probably 2008-9. But at that time it really was like this very outdoorsy. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of great stuff to be doing there. And then I think that everybody gets a trophy kind of demographic started coming in, and we'd been almost a decade in Iraq, and the war on drugs in and out of Mexico, and we were closing down the El Paso Juarez border and stuff like that. And like I started doing a lot of trips back and forth down there, going to secure the border, because about that time I was going to K-9, so I was doing a lot of explosive detection on the border and on airstrips just on America's side of the border, because like Ike Skelton, who was a senator then, he's since deceased, and a bunch of others were always going down and flying into Juarez to talk to the government of Mexico, and they would come back over, and they were seriously concerned that people were setting IEDs up on airstrips in the country for them to land on and to kill them. Mm-hmm. And so, like, the world just got a little bit more aggressive and a little bit crazier. We were running 2 wars. We were trying to fight the war on terror and drugs, and I think it was a big part about why SRT got their own job. They got their own space, and their own position was they had a real world mission all of a sudden, where we used to just be law enforcement guys on a military base. Mm-hmm. And there always was K9 was always their own separate group, which is what I spent probably the vast majority of my time in, and because you can't just have anybody taking a dog over every other afternoon, right? So we were cops, and then we were K9 people, and then the base just started getting overrun with all the things that we had to go do, and it got professional. It got really, really strict.
Yeah.
Probably got to the way that, like, I never got stationed at Bragg or anything like that, but it probably got a lot more formal, and it wasn't quite as fun anymore.
Interesting.
We also took on engineers around that time frame, or it was just after, like a big brigade of engineers came onto base too. Which, I mean, engineers are going to be like the Wild West of.
Well, and so I mean, I think that was part of it. It was about the time that I was being removed from service. It was a lot of the drawdown happening. Like what had happened at that point was we'd expanded the military to fulfill the bodies that we needed overseas.
Mm-hmm.
But right before that was kind of the time where 9/11 happened really early on into Bush's tenure. Clinton closed a lot of military bases before that in an effort to conserve and save money. So we didn't have the vast number of soldiers. Then we got attacked. We sent a bunch of people away. We had empty barracks as we were easy. It was easy to fill them with people that we were recently training, so that way we could send them overseas, so that when those people came back, they went and filled it again. Gotcha. So now we're drawing everyone back from overseas in that 8 to 12, 8 to 13 time frame. Well, we didn't have anywhere to put soldiers, so they all started building bases back up, and what they were doing was expanding on bases like Fort Leonard Wood, which was a very big training base, like open environment. So they would build barracks there. They brought in these giant brigades and started stuffing soldiers in these places. Part of the reason why I was removed of service, like they felt like they could train a private to replace me for half the price that they were paying me at that time. It was just like, look, you did
business on top of every.
Yeah, I tell people that all the time. The worst feeling I probably have, the worst thing that ever happened to me is I love the military. I really do. If I could go back to where it was, probably 2009, I would do it in a heartbeat. But only 2 days I ever felt like a number in the service was the day I went in and I stood on MEPS and on the footprints and MEPS, and the day I was basically told, like, we don't need you anymore. When your contract's up, don't come back to work the next day.
Yep. And I remember you talking about that. You mentioned that. So let's see. You had to take pepper spray. Did you guys have to take the taser gun like I've seen the videos?
Oh yeah,
you got to do that too.
Yeah, I volunteered for it. That was a rough ride.
Oh, okay.
I'm the kind of person who spends the vast majority of my day wearing a TENS unit on my back, though, like shocking the shit out of my back.
Right.
Like, I don't know if it's because of that, because I didn't do it that way before, but it makes my back feel so much better already. The worst part about the entire thing about doing it is pulling the barbs out of the back. Like, the ride didn't bother me as much as when they get ready to pull the barbs out of your back, because those prongs that go in are not just needles going into it. Yeah, there's a hook inside it, like you would be using in a fish hook. And so the proper way to pull it out is to, like, put two hands and spread it and then push it in and pull it out. And so that's kind of, I did that a lot for people. Like, I would be the guy who would hold the service member up from one side.
Oh yeah, and one of the people holding them up while they do that. Any fun stories with that? Like, I've seen some funny ones. Like, there's the one where the girl's holding like this, and when she hits, her arm goes down and hits the dude right in the junk. I'm like, I mean, that's why the two people holding look the opposite direction. That's actually the reason why you're supposed to do it that way. But I did see somebody. God, I don't remember the training guy's name. That he was an E5 sergeant. That was. So you don't get any
working under
bolts?
Beaver.
Furlicker?
No,
you don't get anything as the person holding.
Dancing. What do you mean?
You get a little,
that's what
but
I was
not
wondering.
as
Like,
much.
typically, when that stuff passes through, it'll pass through.
Well, so it goes from prong to prong. Like,
Okay, so it's trying to. Gotcha. So that's why it's less.
The worst I ever saw, and I don't remember, he was shooting it, and I don't remember who was holding it. It may have been Pierce or somebody was holding it up, but it missed, and one hit the holder up guy in the junk, and the other one hit the target person in the butt cheek. So one went.
So it was passing through.
No, like, so when he went to shoot, like, he just didn't have his laser on and put it where it needed to go. And so the guy's back is facing the shooter, and then the other two guys on each side are facing at the shooter. And so when he went to go shoot, like, I think he was talking or pulled the trigger early or something like that, and the prongs went out. One went into the left ass cheek of the person he intended to shoot in the lower back. The left prong went into the nutsack of the person.
You're talking a current from the nutsack all the way to the ass cheek through two people.
But it didn't work. I mean, like, there was not enough connectivity that way, because they're wearing
him.
Because when you're doing it, you're generally wearing your blouse or, like,
See,
So
we
you're
were
locking
opposite
up.
on ours. We didn't actually So we had the guinea pig that got shot.
Right.
Then the rest of us volunteered to feel what it was like.
So you.
Believe it or not, ours were hooked into our boots.
Oh wow!
And
really?
you still felt it through your whole body, like your body was being boiled from the inside out.
Oh no! You
Like
should,
two people, arm in arm, hooked, and like one person on one boot, one on one person's boot, one on the other person's boot.
you should have taken a real shot.
And-
Like to me, it always felt like traction. It felt like the shock that like you would get
Gotcha,
from being laying on the traction table, and to me, that's what I always felt like to me. Only like cranked all the way up.
Huh.
That's what it felt like to me.
It was unique.
Scott
Yeah.
asleep.
You down for some of that?
I think we
You
can
want to
find
sign
out.
yourself up to?
I'm out completely.
Let's see if I can
Jason's like,
find
I
a
got
D-
a couple.
I'll see if I can find a
I'm
DX9.
surprised you don't have any. It's like, oh, I got a couple in my house. It'll be fine. We could do it.
I ain't borrowing any of his slippers now. Fuck that.
No, those are just some of the stuff that people have access to, so they see those things. Is there any other stuff that you have to get exposed to that's potentially like, hey, we want you guys to get exposed to this so you can know? Or
Just-
Oreo
Gas
capsicum from the gas chamber.
Yeah, I mean, just a gas chamber, and that is made best that I remember to affect your lungs. And so once you breathe it in, you feel like you're suffocating inside. And through it, you've either got to spend so much time. Some people may even have to do certain chants and stuff during it.
see, for me,
prove that-
that's the one that would be the most terrifying. Like, I can grit through pain, I can get through whatever, but it's like if I feel like I can't breathe,
well,
that's a whole nother level
so
of
you would
panic.
have a big group that'll come in at one time.
Be like 10, 15 people standing against the wall.
I was the first person in our group and didn't realize that my mask didn't seal before I went into the room. So I was affected by it from the minute I walked in until we took off our mask, until we left.
It always cracked me up though, because what they do is they put these capsules and they put it in like a hot plate, and it just burns it up and puts it in the air.
releases it. Like,
Well, so you'd always end up getting like some drill sergeant in there, like doing push-ups or sit-ups on the ground. They're like, I don't know why you're all crying in here, Private. I don't know why there's snot and shit running everywhere from you, Private.
Yeah.
Like this isn't tough in here. I've been in here for 30 minutes. You've been in here 30 seconds. Why you complaining, Private? Like say your warrior ethos. Say the
Soldier's creed.
the soldier's creed. Your first general law or general order, and like and you'd be like, well, I don't know how this guy's doing this, and
Yeah.
like snot is just like stringing out of your nose to like almost waist long.
Yep.
And then you get in the real army and you figure out the secret. That stuff sits about 3.5 feet up off the ground, so it doesn't go all the way to the ground.
so he's down below.
He's down
outside
below
of
beneath it,
Yeah.
and he can
You're
get in
like,
there.
How in the hell? I'm fine down here. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, it always cracked me up.
Of course, there's always a trick.
It was
has
totally
to
a
be.
trick, and it's one of those things like so you walk in and it's to test, it's to prove that you can trust your gas mask. So you walk in with your gas mask sealed, and you're like you get this false sense of like control because you like everybody, you've seen everybody walk out like snot running everywhere, looking like they woke up after like after falling, like being asleep all weekend in a like dumpster, like just looked like trash. And
Yeah.
you walk in, you're like, oh man, it's not that bad. And they're like, take a deep breath or whatever. And so you take a deep breath in your mask, and you're like, oh wow, like this shit works. Like those pro masks were quality. And I mean,
And
probably
then they
made by
make
the
you take
lowest
it off?
bidder still. Yeah, then they make you take it off. And they're like, you close your eyes, take a breath, and like you pull it off, and like everybody stands there.
Sometimes you may even do exercises. Maybe like do jump up or jumping
jacks.
jacks or something.
I mean,
just
side straddle hops.
side straddle
You've been
hops.
a civilian too long.
Yeah.
We have to name everything
Side
different.
straddle.
Or like
hop.
overhead arm clasps.
Velcro is hook and pile tape. It's not Velcro. It's hook and pile tape.
Well, Velcro is the brand.
Right, but everything has a proper name that we could put in the standard operating procedure. Yeah, and then you pull it off, and they want everybody's holding their breath, and they're like, I'm not letting the door open until everybody says the soldier's creed, or everybody gives their their identification number or whatever like that. Yeah.
So you're trying to hold out as long as you can, thinking like,
Or you just do it because you're like, oh man, I'm going to do it anyway. Well, no, they're going to make sure that every one of you is. In the group that went right after me, they were in for a long period of time because there was a kid in there who did not react to it at all.
Yeah.
Like he had one in like every 400 people
weird
or something.
metabolism of something or something like that.
Like,
It can
just
happen.
like he would cough, like he like he was starting to get the corona or something. But no snot, eyes were not watering, anything like that. He was just like, it was like a cloud of something in his face.
Did you ever have anybody on your team that made stuff that you had to do a pain in the ass? Like you knew that person was going to cause you to have to do more? Or
Fuck
that,
yes.
Yeah, and like if you talk about basic,
Scott's like, that's
That'd
me.
be me.
there would be
That's
some
my job, guys.
instances where you would be required to do something. So I don't know. Let's say you're going to do overhead arm claps, which is basically hold your arms out, one hand, right? Overhead arm claps.
Well,
Anyways,
yeah.
it's a
it
miserable.
really wasn't that hard. They were just,
No, they're simple. So
Overhead
yes,
clap.
overhead arm claps, and the whole point is to burn yourself out. Well, you may say we're going to do this for 5 more minutes. You do it for 5 more minutes. All right, as long as everyone does it for 5 minutes, we're going to be done. Then the drill sergeants would say, someone else dropped their arms. Start over.
you still could never figure it out,
Yeah.
but somebody on the other side of
Somebody.
the
Well,
formation.
sometimes even if it wasn't, they would just make
Exactly,
Gotcha.
but you would always think it was someone.
I love that they would always be like, "You grew them, you hold them up there."
Can you imagine too if everyone thinks it's you too? It's like everyone assumes just based off of other shit. They're like, I know it was you, and you're like, it wasn't me.
The weekend I was graduating, like it was me and one other dude.
It was fucking Zimmerman.
We were both the
Could be me.
PT studs, the top of the class. Like we both had the 300 scores and had the shortest times. And so it got to a point where like we were not getting smoked at all anymore by by the drill sergeants. And so like it became a joke with them. And they were like, "All right, you two get up here." So we were like we were doing wall sits. You know, you'd sit sit in a chair next to the wall, and then pretend you're driving. So you had to put your hands out and like you were holding a steering wheel. And then they would be like, "All right, now you got to shift." And so they'd be shifting. Well, then that was going fine. We weren't breaking there, and we were at 10, 20 minutes easy out there. Went and grabbed some 5-pound weights from the bench that they had down in the room, and like so then it was like steer, turn left, and then you had to stay turning left, and then it was turn right, and you had to stay turn. Now shift, so you had to figure out how to hold the 5-pound weight with one hand, and then put your leg out and shift while sitting in it until we fell. And that was probably the first time after like a couple weeks there, because I came in pretty well in shape, and I was pretty better than the average bear. So when we would go out and get smoked or get messed with, like I would always stay ahead of most people. And I think it's still that way. Like when I was working out at Fitness Together, they wanted me to do flutter kicks in there and like the supine bicycle, and I was doing it, and they were like, "People don't do it like that." I was like, "Trust me, I've been in a lot of trouble in the Army before. This is a common occurrence for me." Even 10 years after I left, like I still somehow underneath this protective
It's muscle memory.
coating for the rock hard abs that I have under the
I was
keg.
about to say it's there. You've just done it enough times. Like that stuff
I
doesn't
call
go
it the
away.
insurance policy.
Right, staying at
That
that.
this body is the insurance policy for what's underneath.
Truth.
Keeping my heels 6 inches off the ground for it was fine, but I think it's time to wind down. I think that's almost a 2-hour episode for us. I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna cut it in half.
Jason. No, just let that shit roll. We'll test it out and see
Let
what
it run.
happens.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, why not?
Well, the first half was a lot of Corona stuff, and then we got to do some
Yeah,
Longhorn
I think
pitch.
that,
And then the
you
second
know.
one was a lot of
Yeah, but
Army
we got no
stuff.
closures. Just let the whole thing run. Save yourself the aggravation. If you want to clip some stuff out, clip some stuff
I was
out.
going to say, you can clip some stuff out for sure because there'll be some great stories in there of just, all those things are great.
I'm gonna make a Longhorn commercial from it.
Yeah.
There you go. Why don't you do your commercial?
Yeah, I was about to say, tell the people where they can find you.
Tell us how to find you. Tell us how to
Instagrams,
check
all
you
that.
out, and
Well, be sure to check out Longhorn Woodworks and Supply, www.longhornwoodworks.com. Best way to find me and see what I do is through Facebook and Instagram, though. Post every photo that I do. Tomorrow I'll post a picture of what was just built for Jason and his wife as well, so you'll get to see what we talked about tonight.
and he's not local, but he is a Texas guy.
Yep,
So
I am
Tyler,
located at Tyler, Texas.
Texas.
Not far.
So
Make sure you mention our podcast to him.
See if we get you any
Oh,
business.
yeah, I'd like to see it. I mean, hey, it'd be
Who
interesting.
knows? Scotty, do you have anything?
I do.
Oh,
Oh
shit.
shit!
My thoughts exactly. I saw the blank look. I'm like, he ain't got nothing.
Let
He
me
ain't got
lean
nothing.
back.
All right. What has 2 butts and kills people? An assassin.
All right, Jason.
I'd hate to
You
ask
have
you
to
to like.
follow that.
I'd hate to ask you to like, follow, share, and check us out on YouTube after that joke. But please check us out. Like, follow, share. Don't forget to
You see how he
subscribe.
held back his laughter and he let it go time release?
Time
As
No,
he
he's
was
laughing about
speaking.
the fact that he's like, after that horrible joke, I have to ask you.
I do. I have to ask you because that's how we continue to keep the lights on in this place. So check us out on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook. Don't forget to look at the support local. We didn't talk about it at all this episode, but we've been putting a lot of stuff up. We've got some blogs. We've got some information going on.
Over
Scott,
500 likes, over 200 members in the private group. So
Scott wrote a blog. Did you publish that yet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we got 2 blogs up.
so we got 2
some
blogs up.
bloggers, professional bloggers.
Yeah, right. I'm published now. Don't forget to like, follow, share. Check us out on YouTube. Brandon?
I'm Dr. Brandon Brown, and I approve this message.